To order, may I have a motion to open?
So moved. Papalardo.
Second.
Grossman.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will now enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel related to NCSA related goals.
I will say one week.
And one legal matter.
And one legal matter. I apologize. Are you guys live? Okay.
Just get the vote to go in and then we'll.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? just the stuff.
Now is it starting to slow down a little bit for you?
Not quite yet.
It
It's
seems
all
like
like strategic planning.
Yeah.
Like the board meetings or the committee is like, all right, yeah. It's all those other ones, but yeah.
my favorite password I was referencing. You were in camp last year.
Yeah, so this is teacher assistant.
Everybody. And you can mention what anyone from him to Rob Lehar at other ceremonies.
I think we should. Just even for the kids. What do we need to know? Dan, what do we need to do to wait to open late? What do we need to do to open late? You don't want me to just... I text, but I can't.
By the way, they said should hit in the middle of the meeting tonight, right?
Those microphones are.
You're fired tonight.
Okay, good. I'm good with that.
What do we need to do to open late? Anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Good whenever. I think we're all here.
I don't like being late.
I know. These people want to get home. They're seeing a long night ahead of them.
Is she really pulling out chairs all for
Yeah, we
herself?
were.
Yeah.
I would be happy to help her.
Yeah. There's nobody else sitting there, right?
I'll make
Okay, good. Thank
So guys, if you just want to fill in this first row so that we can keep a clear aisle back there, please. So some of y'all standing back in the corner, if you could move up to this front row for us. We want to be able to keep a clear egress out of the building.
No, we don't want that. We don't want that. We want to have a recess so they all leave. That's why we have breaks. All right, I think we're as good as we're gonna get.
Okay. Need a motion to leave?
Probably.
Let's just two more. Let's let Stacy get back.
All right. If anybody takes us up on our offer.
Alright. Jeez Louise. No, that's
Nobody wants to sit in the front row.
okay.
It's like in college.
Okay, this meeting will come to order. Notice of the regular meeting of the Pitman Board of Education was advertised in the South Jersey Times, posted at Borough Hall, a copy thereof delivered to all Pitman schools to be posted, and posted on the district's website. Further, notice was posted and filed as required by law, stating that the board would meet in executive closed session at 7 p.m., followed by a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. in the Pitman High School Media Center. The president shall entertain any objections with supporting reasons to the conduct of this meeting on the grounds that it violates the Open Public Meeting Act. Seeing none, good evening and welcome to the Pitman Board of Education. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Rose, will you please call roll?
Miller,
Here.
Pappalardo,
Here.
Grossman, Higby Iono,
Here.
Bolton, Farrell, Pote, Crispin,
Here.
all present.
All right, that moves us to our presentation portion of the meeting. We would like to invite our Memorial School principal up first. For Teacher of the Year? Okay. But Memorial first, correct? Okay. So we're going to do our Teacher and Educational Service Professional of the Year recognition this evening, and if we could start with Memorial, please.
Can everybody hear me? Do you want me to say a little bit about what Teacher of the Year is before I start? I have here. Teacher of the Year is presented every year by the governor. It talks about services of an exceptionally skilled and dedicated educator in a public school who inspires students of all backgrounds and abilities to learn, demonstrates leadership and innovation in and outside of the classroom. Teacher of the Year has the respect and admiration of students, parents, administrators, and colleagues, and plays an active role in the community as well in the school. And Memorial's Teacher of the Year this year is Mrs. Stephanie Lai. Mrs. Lai, if you could please come up. Where is she? Okay. I was like, I knew I saw it. My readers make everybody a little blurry. Mrs. Lai has been a first grade teacher in Pitman for 30 years. During her tenure, she spent 20 years at Kindle School and her last 2 years at Memorial. It has been so nice to watch her work with her students this year. Stephanie is a true expert in her field. Her 30 years of experience, mostly in first grade, shows in the classroom. She is accomplished and consistent in using best practices in her teaching. Her students make substantial progress each year. She reaches learners and provides them with tools to be successful. She provides high-quality instruction while being a compassionate and caring teacher. She has tutored children on her own personal time and goes the extra mile for students who are dealing with difficult situations in their lives. Mrs. Lai has an excellent rapport with families, and she provides communication and feedback throughout the year. Her colleagues respect and value her as their team member and mentor. The children, family, and staff of Pitman have benefited greatly from her time and talent as an educator in the district. This being my first year at Memorial School, my first phone call to Mrs. Lai was, in July, I need you to move your classroom. And not knowing that she had just moved to Memorial the year prior and that she would be retiring in June. So hopefully my gift to you was the help of clean out and made that a little bit easier. But she does remind us every Monday how many days are left. So what is the number? 37.
All of our recipients this evening will receive a commemorative clock at a luncheon.
To be held at a future date. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do pictures at the end.
Just want me to keep talking? All right. Our Educational Support Professional of the Year, Miss Debbie Ventus. Ms. Ventus has had 22 years of service as a classroom instructional aide at Memorial Elementary School. Mostly, she spent a small amount of time at Kindle as well. She is also part of our Panther Club staff, which is our after-school, before and after-school program. Mrs. Ventus is an excellent choice to be recognized as Educator Support Professional of the Year. Pitman School District has been fortunate to have Debbie as an employee for many, many years. No matter the assignment, Debbie is always the right-hand person for teachers and children. She accomplishes everything asked of her with smile and grace, and she demonstrates kindness and patience no matter how challenging the situation. She is dependable, professional, and always caring. We are so fortunate to have her, and this recognizes her for always going above and beyond. She cares so much for the children at Memorial every day. She's with them at recess, Panther Club, and in the classroom. She has a very special bond with students who just need a little more extra care, and she refers to them as her A-team. Congratulations, Mrs. Venture.
Debbie.
If we could have Mrs. Stewart from Pitman Middle School and Mrs. Bell.
Good evening, everyone. The Teacher of the Year for Pitman Middle School is Mr. John Bopile. Come on up, John. I always sit and think about what to say at these kind of things, and I was thinking about the day that I hired Mr. Bopile. I got his resume, and it said in the resume that he worked with John Legend. So I was like, I have to meet this person immediately. I feel like Ordinary People was a top hit, and I could just see our kids really getting into the R&B. So I brought him in, and we did demo lessons in the summertime. So we scheduled 15 minutes for each person to get to work with our students. And as you can imagine, in the summer, it's a lot of honking and squeaking going on because our kids are out of practice. So we spent the day with a bunch of different people coming in for the demos, and Mr. Botbile was at the end. I couldn't believe it was the same group of students that he spent 15 minutes working with. It was like magic, how good they sounded after just 15 minutes with him. And I thought, I have to have him on the staff. So we hired him immediately, and it's been that way ever since. He's a person who squeezes every single ounce of talent and also includes all of our kids. So we now have not just concert band. I had to actually make a list. We have concert band, the jazz band. We have the Pitman Prowlers Pop Band, who you may have seen in the middle of town in the month of May, playing in front of everyone. He runs our talent show. So we also have Bucket Beats, if you've been to any of our concerts. So someone who is just so talented in his own right, who's able to transfer that talent to our students. We're so fortunate to have him, and I congratulate him.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am very happy and proud to announce our SB winner from Pitman Middle School, our one-on-one nurse, Mr. Tom McCarty. You can come on up. Mr. McCarty is a wonderful person that consistently goes above and beyond in everything that he does for us at Pitman Middle. I start my day outside, and there he is waiting for his student to arrive at school, sprinkling magic on all of our sixth graders and their parents and a few pets along the way. We are very, very happy to have him because he goes above and beyond with everything. I don't really think you understand the power of a good morning with a genuine smile. We look forward to that every single day with you. The best quality about him, though, is his genuine care for all of our students. If you're ever at the middle school, it would not be unusual to see Mr. McCarty running alongside Ms. Stewart and I going to an emergency that is happening somewhere around our building. This is just the type of individual he is. He's truly is a treasure, and we are so happy to have him. He really has a natural ability to connect with all people, especially our students. In the words of William Ward, a warm smile is the universal language of kindness. Thank you.
And next, we're going to move to Walls Elementary School with Mr. Mars.
Good evening. Walls School would like to honor Mrs. Gerace. So can Mrs. Gerace please come up and keep me company? Mrs. Gerace has been an employee in the Pitman Public Schools for 28 years, serving the majority of them as a fifth grade teacher. She's currently in her third year in fourth grade, specializing in math, science, and social studies. I've known Mrs. Gerace as her building principal for the past 14 years, and before that, by reputation, I am proud to say that my two daughters spent a year with Mrs. Gerace, and they're very pleased about this honor as well. She is especially skilled at identifying students who need a little extra, whether it's supplemental instruction, a kind word, or some extra encouragement. Mrs. Gerace is our Teacher of the Year because of a greater role in our school community must always be recognized. She is always keenly aware of the student needs and actively finds ways to meet outside of school concerns. Her caring and concern for colleagues and their families has also been an immeasurable contribution. The classroom academic experiences that Mrs. Gerace provides for her students are just what a tight-knit community should offer, but each learning experience begins to lay the groundwork for students to make positive contributions to the world beyond her classroom. Some of the words from her nominations are that Mrs. Gerace goes above and beyond for her students past and present. My daughter looked forward every single day to going to her class, and a lot of that was because of Mrs. Gerace. Mrs. Gerace's dedication to her students, her craft, her sense of community, and her kindness are a powerful combination that consistently makes wherever you find her in Walls School a great place to be. Thank you for all you do for your students and for our Walls community, Mrs. Gerace. You make us all proud. Even if I do need glasses.
And now if we could have Kindle Principal Mrs. Mason.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather and hopefully my voice comes out. Every school is like a beautifully woven quilt. Each fabric square is a vital part of the school family. I'm excited to share 2 of those pieces of our school quilt that make Kindle an amazing place for students to learn and grow. First, it is my pleasure to announce Kindle's Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Jackie Bradley. To go off script for a minute. This just describes Mrs. Bradley perfectly. She texted me last night, did I go to the doctor's? I said no, I was cooking bacon and eggs. And then she texted me this morning, are you going to the doctor's? I did go to the doctor's, and then she texted me, did you get medicine and are you taking it? So again, always thinking about everyone else. Mrs. Bradley has been in the Pitman district for 23 years. This is her 5th year at Kindle as a teacher, and we are so fortunate to have her. Currently, she serves as our school's special education teacher in the self-contained setting, but she does so much more than her title. She goes above and beyond for her students every day, making sure they feel loved, they feel included. She includes their interests in her daily lessons and is always looking for ways to enhance her classroom. But she's always looking for ways to enhance the school as a whole. As an example, she's helped to organize our school store. When Kmart went out of business, we brought Kmart to Kindle, so the students love that. Mrs. Bradley also helps out in the cafeteria, volunteers to lend any helping hand in the main office when we're short-staffed or with a colleague. Mrs. Bradley is well deserving of the Teacher of the Year award for Kindle. Thank you. Next up, I would like to announce Mrs. Terry Van Mater as our Educational Services Professional. We all know schools don't run without instructional aides. It is one of the absolute hardest jobs in a school system. And without them, schools could not run. And so when I look at the daily absent report and I see that there's an instructional aide like Mrs. Van Mater that is absent for the day, I know that I have a real problem because they cover so many parts of the building. It's not just helping students, in the classroom. It's helping at arrival, at dismissal, in the cafeteria, in the hallway, to cover meetings. It's so much more than that. Mrs. Van Mater has been in the district for 14 years, and she currently serves as Kindle School as an instructional aide for the past 3 years. She services students in grades 2, 3, and 4. Mrs. Van Mater plays an important role in our school. She is much more than an instructional aide. She plays a vital role in supervising children while they eat and on the playground. Mrs. Van Mater is always willing to pitch in where we are short-staffed or when a colleague needs assistance. She is professional, dedicated, reliable, and we are so fortunate to have her at Kindle School. Mrs. Van Mater is extremely deserving of the ESPY Award. Thank you.
Rebecca? Rebecca? Rebecca?
We'll just put it on hold. That is. I just want to make sure we acknowledge. Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge our high school Teacher of the Year and Educational Specialist of the Year. Mr. Finley is our Teacher of the Year at the high school, and Mrs. Pally is our Educational Specialist of the Year at the high school. So they're not with us this evening, but we wanted to make sure that we congratulated them as well. I'd like to take a brief recess so that. Student spotlights at the same time? No.
Yeah, we have,
Sorry, I
staff.
apologize. You're right. So if we could have Memorial School back up to the podium, I apologize. Jumped the gun.
Okay, I also have the honor of presenting Spotlight students for Memorial School and also a Spotlight staff member tonight. Before I start with the students, each day we do a pause pledge that is the foundation for our character work as students at Memorial Elementary School. And these students exemplify all the parts of that pledge which help us to be kinder, more inclusive, and just the best group of kids we can be and people, staff community we can be every day. On Fridays, we take nominations for positive bucket fillers, and both Mrs. Thompson and I read those nominations each Friday, and from those nominations, we have chosen one Spotlight student from each grade level. So we'll start with our most senior member of the group, first grader, Mr. Dominic Jacobs. Come on up, Dom. Come on up. You stand here so everybody can see you and your wonderful smile. His teachers share that Dominic is truly an inspiration to staff, to all the staff that work with him. He comes to school every day with a smile on his face and a very happy heart. He is heartwarming to watch interact with other students, as he always does so with such kindness and warmth. As his principal, I get an awesome greeting each morning in the drop-off line. He loves to catch his friends on the way in and walk through the doors with them each morning, even though sometimes he leaves some of his adults behind. Dominic shares a love for music with Mr. Chapman, our music teacher. They have a very special bond. They often have a quick conversation about something that he likes to jam out to. And at recess and lunch are also a favorite part of his day, where his light really shines as he plays with everyone and is just a great classmate. He includes everyone with his positivity, and it is contagious. Congratulations, Dominic. Bring it back up. Oh, Dominic, over here. Sorry. Our second Spotlight student is Grace Mason. Grace's teachers share that Grace exemplifies all aspects of positive behavior. She is kind and respectful to her classmates and teachers. She helps friends in need and is always willing to lend a hand. She shares with her classmates whenever anyone is in need of school supplies. She works hard every day and tries her best on each activity that she completes. Grace is friendly and caring, and if she sees a friend feeling left out, she is the first one to go over to them and play with them. Grace is a wonderful role model to her friends in our classroom. She always follows directions and encourages her table mates to do the same. Her positive attitude and loving heart make her a shining star. As her principal, each day I see her skip in happily to the building, holding hands with a chain of friends. Her smile and giggles are infectious. I love having conversations with her during lunch and hearing about her interests outside of school. Congratulations, Grace. And finally, we have our preschool student, Miss Stella Rose. Stella's teacher says she always comes to school with a smile and is ready to start her day. Stella is a kind and caring student who is always willing to participate and share her stories. She is a wonderful helper and a classroom leader. She always has a positive attitude and is a joy to teach. Stella's year began as a half-day preschool student, eating lunch in the cafeteria and spending her afternoon in Panther Club. And she flawlessly shifted to a full-day preschool student with 3- and 4-year-olds in her classroom and quickly became a classroom leader. I've eaten lunch with Stella several times and spent time in her classroom during choice time. She loves to be read to. I have been in her classroom and we've shared many books where she listens attentively and has great insights about the story. She always welcomes other friends to sit with us. Her quiet demeanor and kind and thoughtful spirit holds the heart of a very skilled and future leader. Congratulations, Stella. Can I ask my Spotlight students to come up and do the pause pledge for everybody? Dom and Grace, can you come back up? You're gonna do the pause pledge? All right, ready? Face everybody. I'll hold the microphone. Can you be loud and proud? All right, I'll get us started. Ready? Pause. Practice safety. Always be kind.
Work hard. Show respect.
Great job. Okay, and last but not least, our Spotlight staff member, Mrs. Himmer. Ann Himmer is a first grade teacher at Memorial School. Oh, I'm sorry, kindergarten teacher. I don't know why that's written that way. This is shared by her colleague. If you were to ask yourself what you think of when you think of a kindergarten teacher, we have it right there, you would think of Ann Himmer. Her kindness, compassion, dedication, and helpfulness are clearly evident every day. She has a big heart full of empathy and grace. Her willingness to be there for her students, colleagues, and school are admirable. Ann is an inspirational teacher. As her principal this year, her willingness to jump in as needed to support the staff and myself throughout the day and make kindergarten the happiest place to grow and learn exemplifies her commitment to our community of education. Congratulations.
So if we could have our three Spotlight students come up and take a picture first. And then we'd love to take an opportunity during a brief recess, which we'll take shortly after their picture, to take some pictures of our Educational Professionals of the Year, Specialists of the Year, and Teachers of the Year. So we'll go into a brief recess for that. But before we do that, if we could just have those students, Stella Rose. Oh, we lost.
We'll get it.
Okay. Do you want to get these too? Okay. So. Guys, you want. Thank you. So we're going to take about a 5 or 10 minute recess.
Kirsten, get a picture real quick with Andy.
And then we'll go back into our Board of Education meeting after the recess. If you would like to leave, we completely understand.
Now's your chance.
Yeah. But if we could have all of the staff members that were selected this evening to come on up so we can get their picture, please. This brings us to our first public hearing. The Pitman Public School Board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. This is the first of 2 public comments we will have tonight. This is a public hearing on agenda items only. This is public comment and not a dialogue between the board and the public. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and it is your opportunity to comment or ask questions. In accordance with board policy number 0167, we ask that you state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. To be recognized to speak, please stand behind the podium located here to the left and speak clearly into the microphone.
Hi, my name is Nancy B. I am the grandmother of a student in Pitman Middle School, Aiden Fortney.
I'm sorry, may I have your municipality of residence, please?
Pitman.
Thank you.
Something else? Okay. Many of you don't know Aiden. He's a sixth grade student. He's 11 years old. What you do not know about Aiden is that 11 months old, Aiden had been diagnosed with lead poisoning. At 1.5 years old, he was abandoned by his mother. At 1.5, he was abused by his dad. At 4, his dad became so violent that he suffers from PTSD. At 5.5, his dad abandoned him. Okay, Aiden has been in therapy since his dad left. Constant therapy, sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly. He has been in and out of services his entire life. Okay, he has been diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, DMDD, OCD, ODD. You don't need to know this, but I want to tell you, because to me, even though all of these things have letters and numbers that I don't understand, I know he has a heart of gold, and he's kind and loving. He has a good family life. We sit down to dinner every night and say grace. We have activities for these kids on the weekends, in the evenings. We have family movie night. We are no different than any other family in Pitman from what I feel. You know, I feel that we have a very exemplary home life in our home. Okay. We've had a troubled year this year with Aiden's PTSD reaching almost an explosive level. Aiden was moved from Mount Holly back to Pitman. In Mount Holly, Aiden exceeded. He was on the principal's list. He received excellent grades. He was in a school that was kind of racially opposite of this, where there were not many white kids in the school, but Aiden still excelled. He got along with everyone. This year, he has had a troubled year. It started out, I think, moving back home, leaving his friends behind, coming back to Pitman. He had some difficulties, some outbursts, and ended up in Bankbridge School. No? He ended up in a PhD program. Okay. Ultimately coming back to Pitman. Okay. My issue is that Aiden, by mistake, one day brought home his Chromebook, which every student in Pitman has in middle school and whatever other grades. As we were searching through his Chromebook, we noticed Aiden spends 32% of his day on YouTube. There's no kids here. You could hand them around if you would. 32% of his day is watching videos with racial slurs. We wonder why Aiden is calling kids the N-word, where it's glorified in videos that he's watching on YouTube during the day in the school. Yet we wonder why this kid is using these racial slurs. Yeah. The school, I'm making a statement. I'm not asking for explanation. I'm just making a statement to make a point. Okay, not only was he suspended from school or disciplined at school, the police were called because it was a racial incident. Well, does the school realize that on school property, on a school Chromebook, they are glorifying these racial slurs because the N-word is you're N my brother, you're N my friend, and this and that. It's glorified. Okay, not only is it the racial slurs, it's, excuse me, I don't want to see any kids around here. The words You can see it in the paper. Sexually explicit videos he's watching. He's watching videos of kids fighting. He's watching videos of kids getting bullied and beaten, okay? Do you need to worry about this child, my grandchild? I would say no. But I bet every parent that's watched their kid go to school and do something wrong, illegal, or hurt somebody else would stand up here and say the same thing before it happened. So I can't say no.
Ma'am, we have 2 public comment sections, and it's 3 minutes per each one, so you will get another shot to speak at the end.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
So this public hearing is on agenda items only, so if you would like to speak on items that are on our agenda, please go to the podium on the left if you would like to participate in this public hearing.
Okay, can I speak after the?
In the second
There will be
public
a second
hearing,
public
yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
Seeing none, Mrs. Rose, is there any correspondence?
Yes, we want to thank Sarah Jane D'Onofrio, 2006 Pitman High School graduate, for the donation of a trumpet. And Diane Zimmerman sent in a thank you note for a donation for the passing of her mother. We provided a donation. And that's all.
Thank you. I will now move to accept a motion for the minutes of the Pitman Board of Education as held on the dates listed below are approved as printed and reading dispensed with. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections?
I need to abstain from the 29th for the both sets of minutes.
Any other abstentions? Okay, seeing none, passes. Let's go to the President's report. The Pitman Board of Education wants to congratulate all of our teacher and educational service professionals of the year, our student spotlights, and our staff member spotlight from Memorial School. Strategic planning and the subcommittees have continued to meet over the last few weeks. Board of Education members are divided amongst the committees and subcommittees and have continued to work on those efforts to create a strategic plan with the New Jersey School Board Association leading the efforts. Board members were also in attendance at building level tours held by Mr. Crispin and Mrs. Rose. Our legislative advocacy efforts are continuing. I have a meeting later this week with Mr. Crispin and Mrs. Rose on behalf of the Board of Education to provide some additional updates to them regarding the school funding formula and outline some of the data of interest. And now I will pass it over to Mr. Crispin.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Just some couple items here. First of all, we have our HIB report for the board. There's an attachment there. Security drills for the month are also attached. 3 items for discussion tonight. The board will be considering a motion with regard to our school grade level reconfiguration plan. Just a quick recap. We had a board meeting last month, at which time I informed the board that based on our state aid information that we had received, it was going to be very difficult for us, if not impossible, for us to present a balanced budget to the state, to the county superintendent, without the potential significant reductions in our expenditure side of our budget, which necessitated ultimately the closing of 2 of our schools and the reconfiguration that's been discussed at numerous meetings that we've been having. The plan tonight that the board will be considering is item number 21 under the Finance Committee portion of the agenda. Most people, I think, are by now familiar with that, but if you're not, that all 7th and 8th grade students will be housed at the Pitman High School starting September 2023. Our 2nd through 6th graders will be housed in the current middle school starting in September 2023. Our preschool through 1st grade students will continue to be housed in the Memorial School. Pitman High School will now be referred to as Pitman Junior Senior High School, and Pitman Middle School will be temporarily referred to as Pitman Elementary School until such time that a permanent name is approved by the Board of Education. So that recommendation will be considered tonight. We've been working to a great extent to plan for this transition with our administrative teams meeting, looking through all the logistics, making sure that we have the amount of space necessary to accommodate the students that will be in each of these buildings, making sure that we can provide the current programs that are being provided. We've been looking at staffing and the impact that it would have on staff. I think through all this process, we basically have come to a point where we feel very comfortable that we can house the students in the 2 facilities, 2 through 6 at the middle school as an elementary school. Will be a very good building for us to utilize for this age group. There's some positives in terms of having all the students together at all those grade levels. There'll be positives in terms of some of the spaces that we'll now have available, i.e. a much larger gymnasium for some of those activities, an auditorium, which we normally don't have at the lower grades. So there will be some advantages with regard to that structuring. At the high school level, it's going to be a little bit more challenging as we bring the 7th and 8th grade students over. We've identified the front right-hand portion of the building as the 7th and 8th grade junior high wing. There's 7 classrooms there. We need 8 classrooms altogether for our 7th and 8th grade students. The 8th classroom will be a science lab because those students will be receiving their still same curriculum for 7th, 8th grade science, which would normally in the current middle school also be a lab. We will certainly try to maintain those students in more of specific areas as much as we possibly can, but just because the building is the building, there will be times in which students from the 7th, 8th grade will be interacting and exchanging in the same hallways as the students in grades 9 through 12. And the reason that we have to have kind of almost a mirrored schedule is because there's a lot of sharing. One of the ways in which we're saving funding is by having teachers who might be teaching some middle school students also teaching high school, and high school teaching at the middle grades. So that's why the 2 schedules have to be almost identical. But I think we've been able to work through that and all the logistics involved, and I think we've come up with a pretty good plan. So that is the recommendation that the board is going to be considering tonight. As far as the budget is concerned, we will have our budget hearing on Wednesday, May 3rd. At that hearing, we need to be able to present a balanced budget for the board to review, consider, and ultimately approve. We are still in the process of kind of working to get to that number. For those people that have been at our meetings previously, we started about $2.5 million difference between the amount of money that we were projecting to expend compared to the amount of money revenue that we had to support that, which means we had to reduce our expenditures by around $2.5 million. At our former, I think at our last kind of budget meeting that the board had when we were in the cafeteria, we had gotten down to about 1.25 million in reductions. It represented about 24 staff members. And then we were working on the next $1.25 million. We're still in the process of working through that. It does involve some levels of staff, but it also involves some other elements that will be presented when we present the budget at the hearing on the 3rd. We're optimistic that we will be able to get to that number. And I think we're going to get to that number, and I think we're going to be still in a relatively good place. As I've shared with some of the staff, we will still maintain 4 of each grade level from 2nd grade, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. We will be at 3 in kindergarten and 3 in 1st grade because those numbers, as they stand right now, are below 60. So there will be less than 20 students in each of those classes. If those numbers were to rise, there is some flexibility for us to make adjustments if it's necessary. So we will keep an eye on that. But we are committed to maintaining our numbers, at least through the transition, at 4 at each grade level. We have a co-teaching model in special education that we've worked very hard to put together and develop, and we're going to be working to maintain that. So we will have co-teachers in grades 1 through 6th grade. So there will be a special ed teacher in a particular classroom for those students who need that support. Part of this is being funded out of the regular budget, and part of it's being funded through the additional monies that the state has provided to us as a district that has lost a significant amount of state aid. 3/4 of that we lost has been restored through legislative action that was most recently taken. So all in all, with those things and everything else that's going on, I think we're still in a very good place. So that's where we are as far as the budget. More information to come at the public hearing. And the last piece is the strategic planning process that we've been going through. We've had 3 meetings up until this point. We'll have our 4th meeting coming up on May 2nd. And at that meeting, hopefully all the subcommittees will be able to come together and we'll get a true sense of what the final outcome of our overall strategic plan will look like. Part of that will be a facilities component. That part of that facilities component could lead to a referendum to address the facility needs of those 3 buildings that we will be utilizing as we move forward. HVAC will be a very big part of that as we anticipate, especially at the middle school, where we'll be using window units like we're using at our current locations. Same thing at Memorial, possibilities of doing a more centralized system there. We have $24 million to work with, which is not a lot, so that's something that's going to have to be decided. And that's all for my report.
And Mrs. Winters is not with us tonight? Okay. I will turn it over to Committee Chairperson, Mr. Grossman.
Hello, thank you. The Finance Committee met on April 13th at 12:30 p.m. In attendance was myself, Board President April Miller, Rebecca Higby-Iono, Interim Superintendent Steve Crispin, and Carissa Rose. I move we With the exception of item number 22 on our agenda, I make a motion that we accept items 1 through 25 as written, excluding number.
Move 1 through 25 first, and then
Okay.
get a second on the table. It's lawyer parliamentary procedure stuff.
Okay.
I gotcha. So move those two first.
1 through 25, I recommend we motion to approve as written.
Any discussion?
Need a second.
May I have a second?
Second. Papalardo.
Now make a motion to table number 22.
And I make a motion number 22, we table for a future meeting, so we can hammer out all the details.
May I have a second?
Second. Papalardo.
And that's just an all in favor.
Okay, Onion, I'd like to comment.
Yeah, we're just,
Yeah, any
yeah, okay,
comment?
gotcha, good. Fair enough.
Okay. I'd just like to offer a couple comments on a couple of different things. So first of all, 7, 8, and 9 are things that we added, and I just want to kind of highlight those. We have been made aware of a grant opportunity, which is this Bipartisan Safer Communities Act Stronger Connections grant. It's around $20 million that's being made available to districts, and it's selective districts, and you have to show some levels of need in which we do qualify, so we're being encouraged to apply. We could apply for up to about $1.3 million of this monies to be utilized for this purpose. It is a pretty comprehensive process, and in the past we have used the assistance of grant writers to help us because it's a huge task, and we want to present the best application as we can, which will give us the best opportunity maybe to receive this funding. So that's what you see there, is applying for the grant and possibly reaching out to this group who we've used previously to help us with the grant writing process. And then, of course, number 9 is the stabilization. This is that additional $900,000 and plus monies the state has made available to us. Actually, it's not, is it 900, 600? 900 of the 1.5 that we lost that we have to submit an application for. So we are going to specifically have to identify in there the positions that we're looking to maintain and any other costs that we're using to charge to that account. I would also like to comment on number 22, and the reason that's being tabled, as you can see, there was a proposal there to change our tuition rates. We've been meeting with, I've had a number of different meetings with community representatives, staff members, as part of our high school stables sustainability committee. And we're looking at ways to strengthen our high school. Right now, we're struggling with the numbers in our high school. We have about 330 students. We're struggling in terms of maintaining certain programs. We're also struggling to help to support some of our after-school activities. And so this was one of the suggestions from our committee that we maybe look to reduce our tuition rate to make it more attractive for people on the outside who may want to send their students here and pay tuition. We're kind of putting that on hold for just a second because as we've been working through the reconfiguration process, when we are bringing the 7th and 8th grade students over to this school, we're taking 8 classrooms from the high school because there's 4 of each grade level, 4 7th and 4 8th. So we had to take 8 classrooms, and they need those classrooms. It's more of a, although it's not self-contained, they kind of switch amongst themselves for their 4 major subject areas. So we're kind of pushing the high school out into lesser classrooms, which is now causing the high school class sizes in those classrooms to rise. And so we want to make sure we have all the information that we can to ensure that we have space in those classrooms to accommodate any additional students that we might want to receive on a tuition basis. So it's not to say we're not going to move forward with this recommendation. We just want to hold off another month to give us a little more time to finalize what that schedule might look like and the impact it might have on our class size. Thank you.
Table 22, and then a roll call to approve that.
All in favor to table 22?
Aye.
Igliano,
Yes.
Papalardo,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Grossman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
All passed.
We will now move on to curriculum instruction. I'll turn it over to committee chairperson, Mrs. Papalardo.
Good evening, everyone. Bear with me, some of the things that I'm going to note already were noted in the superintendent's report, but I already wrote it, so I'm going to read it for you. The Curriculum Instruction Committee met on Thursday, April 13th at 4 p.m. In attendance were Mr. Chrisman, Mrs. Rose, Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Bolton, Mrs. Pote, and myself. Some of the items we discussed included how the reconfiguration of our 2 upper elementary schools into 1 could have an effect on how each grade is taught, specifically 3 to 6. Traditionally, 3 to 5 have had the opportunity to switch throughout the day between 2 teachers. 6th grade has been structured to be more in line with the middle school structure, which would mean 4 teachers who all specialize in one subject. This is still up for further discussion. We also discussed the status of the budget and how much more money is still left to be trimmed in order for the district to meet its mark of where we need to be. We also discussed the proposed grade level configuration of pre-K to 1, 2 to 6, and 7 to 12, and that it would be voted on tonight. And we did discuss also that if the configuration is approved, then the middle school would need a new name and it would no longer be the middle school. And this isn't something that needs to be decided right now. We may be able to involve the student, staff, community to help with the renaming. And so looking at the agenda, number 1 is our statistics. So I'd like to make a motion to approve items 2 to 19 as written.
Any discussion? No, may I have a second?
Second, Bolton.
Any discussion? Mrs. Rose, please call the vote.
Higbiayono.
Yes.
Papalardo.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Pope.
Yes.
Grossman.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
All passed.
We'll now go to communication and policy, and I will turn it over to committee chairperson, Mrs. Higbiayono.
Okay, the Communication and Policy Committee met on April 13th at 5 p.m. In attendance were Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Farrell, Mr. Crispin, Mrs. Rose, and myself. The committee will be recommending approval of a first reading of the revised policies and regulations listed on the agenda. The committee discussed in a little more depth the revised policy number 9700 that addresses distribution of information from special interest groups. The board has discussed this issue recently in committee and public meetings, and the revised policy should address the issue that we have discussed as to knowing and having guidelines on what requests from special interest groups should be granted or declined. And that's it. We also had a discussion about revising policy 5111, but we have tabled that until a future meeting. So I will move to approve item number 1 as written.
May I have a second?
Second, Farrell.
Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Rose, please call the vote.
Higbiayono.
Yes.
Papalardo.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Pope.
Yes.
Grossman.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
And all passed.
This brings us to our second public hearing. This is the second public comment. Please state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. To be recognized to speak, please step to the podium to the left.
Sorry, I wasn't sure that was me. I know I'm limited to 3 minutes, and I'm trying to get a point across that is probably a deeper subject than anybody can think of trying to handle tonight. My point is just that I know we need computers in school. I know computers are relevant for children to learn today in the society that we're living in. Do we need YouTube in the school? I see all kinds of posters in this class, in this room tonight, on all the different things you can learn and all the different sites you can learn. Not one of them says anything about YouTube. Do we need it on kids' computers? Chromebook. I requested it, and the school did take YouTube off my grandson's computer, which I agreed with. I just want to know how many parents are aware that your children are allowed to go willy-nilly, and you can research things, little things that take you into places you don't want your kids to be. None of us do. And some of them are unsafe places. And we should all know that from watching TV, from finding out what's going on in the world today, from learning more about AI and what's going on. We should all be worried when our kids get on YouTube or TikTok or anything like that, because we've lost the influence of our kids when we let that happen. And that's what's happening in the school system. We're losing our influence. When somebody can get on and watch cartoons or sexually explicit videos or things that we can't control, and we're trying to teach and instill values in our kids of things that we want to instill in them, but then when they can go and watch it in school for 32% of a day, it's not 10%, 20%, 32% of a day spent on YouTube searching these videos. That scares me. What are we doing to our young people? Our education is sacred. It's the backbone of our country. We're responsible for these kids. I'm sure, everybody that you recognize tonight, the teachers and the principals, and even the students deserve better than this. As parents and educators, I think we all should be responsible for our kids. And like I said, do you need to worry? I don't know. I can stand up here honestly as a grandparent and say, I don't know. But I wonder if every other person that went to school and hurt somebody, if their parents or grandparents could say the same thing. I'm being honest, I don't know. I do know that he has a lot of love in him. Would he intentionally hurt somebody? I don't think so. We're in therapy. We're doing all the right things. But then I find out in school he's doing 32% of his time on YouTube. Is he learning it from somebody else? No, because you can type in something stupid and come up with the stupidest things. I'm not blaming anybody or trying to blame the school system or anything else. I'm just saying I think that the YouTube thing doesn't belong on a school computer. It doesn't belong on a Chromebook. We need to worry more about educating our kids than giving them free time to spend, in Google. You want to learn something, go to Google and that may be old school and that may sound like old time. But my grandson and I have spent hours just Google. We have Googled everything that we've ever wanted. And it's amazing what you can learn on Google. And it takes you to different sites, but it doesn't take you to the sites TikTok does.
Right. So we really appreciate your comment, and I think your point's very well taken.
Thank you. I would like to comment last saying that, you gave a teacher an award tonight for Teacher of the Year. And you called her compassionate and caring, helping kids in difficult situations. And I think that's what we really need to start looking for.
Thank you.
Teachers that are, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other members of the public that would like to participate in the public hearing? Seeing none, we will go to old business. Mr. Crispin?
I didn't have any old business, and I don't want to debate the issue, but I think it's important to address the board at least. I hope you know that we have, by law, high levels of security on any computers that we issue that are used on our network. And what I like to do is I like to bring in someone from our tech team to explain to you what those safeguards are. This is very concerning, and I'm not saying it did not happen, but we certainly need to investigate it. But it's a little bit surprising that if it happened within school, because again, we by law have a requirement to put high levels of security and safeguards against any type of access that has been mentioned here this evening. And so if there was a breach or there was a failure, we need to find out. But again, I'm going to say I think it's highly unlikely that that was the case. But again, maybe it was. So I don't want anybody leaving here to think that that's something that could easily happen in school, because it can't and shouldn't be. And if it is, we need to fix it. So just want to go on record. Okay, that's it for old.
Okay, and Mr. Crispin for new business?
The only thing I have for new business, I just want to let you know that the state has just recently released the school performance reports, and for members of this community, this is a detailed report in terms of our district and how we measure up against some of the elements that the state is evaluating school districts on. There's some levels of comparisons. There's some level of student performance in which we have to make certain criteria. We've spent some time as a board earlier in the fall talking about what these benchmarks look like, and we may revisit that because it's the one piece, whether we visit as a board or revisit in our committees, that I really think you should have an appreciation for. There are targets that we have to meet instructionally. Either we meet those targets or we don't meet those targets. And these performance reports will kind of indicate that to you, would indicate that to any of our members of our community. You can go on, just type in New Jersey performance reports.
They're on our website.
Okay.
We put not the reports, but we put the link to the reports on our website like 1 or 2 days ago.
Yep. And I think you're going to see, first of all, our elementaries are just knocking it out of the park. Absolutely knocking it out of the park. We will be anxious to see the comparisons. We don't have comparisons. All we see is our isolated numbers. And, it'll be interesting. We have ways of getting everybody else's, and we like to compare because that's really how you truly know how you're doing. It's not looking at yourself in isolation. It's looking compared to districts in the area. And we did very well last year by comparison. We're right up there in the county. And I anticipate, based on these numbers, that that's where we're going to be. We're much stronger in ELA than we are in math. It's something we're taking a look at. We'll be looking at our math resources. Math resources drive a lot of our student performance in this particular area. But from an English language arts perspective, we're doing some great, great things. It continues to remain there, but we do have that leveling off in middle school. We've talked about it. We are going to be challenged to maintain that same level at the middle school level, mainly because of the amount of class time that we have. It's limited, more limited, because we follow a more traditional 45-minute schedule, which is probably the least amount of time, according to the information we have, in the county. We're looking for ways, as we transition over here, how we could beef up that time. Maybe because right now it's 45 minutes of both reading and writing per day. At the lower elementary level, it could be anywhere up to 90 plus minutes of language arts time.
46 minutes of ELA, 46 minutes of math.
Yes, right. Okay, sorry if I said that incorrectly. So it's 45 minutes of each, whereas at the elementary level, it's much more expanded because we have the flexibility where being at the middle school and you're locked into that 8-period, 9-period day, you don't have that flexibility. So we're still evaluating that, but if the only way we can address our performance at that level is to hopefully be able to increase that time. So again, maybe a 45-minute block for reading, maybe a 45-minute block in addition to that for writing. If we can duplicate that in the new 7th and 8th grade schedule, also at the 6th grade, now that 6th grade's kind of been broken apart from middle school, it might give us a little bit more flex. All these things we're taking a look at, but we think hopefully we can address that. High school is a little bit more challenging across the board, not just here in Pitman. The most difficult part of high school is just getting students to take it seriously and give it their best effort, which we don't have that problem generally at the elementary level. But all in all, I think we're building a strong foundation at that lower level, and we just need to continue to find ways of building on it. So more information to come. That's it.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Would be,
May I have a second?
Second, Kurt?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023 in the Pitman High School Media Center for our budget.
Does our staff